The ancient history of Western Europe is one of the most mysterious on Earth. Thousands of ancient monuments aligned with the stars are littered across the islands. The legends of their divine creators are still passed on to this day. But just who created these megalithic stone circles and monoliths? And how does it all relate back to ancient civilization that has its origin in the American Highlands? And what do ancient groups such as the Annunaki, Tuatha De Dannan, and the Shining Ones have to do with it all? Let's find out. The Highlands of Scotland are one of the most magical places on planet Earth. This ancient territory is full of dramatic mountains, thick forests, and a mesmerizing coastline, and is easily considered one of the most beautiful places on Earth. Amongst the high coastal plains of the Highlands lie a vast sway of unusual megalithic stone circles and standing monoliths unlike elsewhere in Europe. These features of the landscape date back thousands of years to a time when humans were considered mere hunters and unaware of metal tools, supposedly to an era when a group of gods known as the Shining Ones thrived in the isolated part of the world. Around 8,000 years ago, a revolution occurred on the isolated island of Orkney and the Western Isles of Scotland. An outstanding collection of stone circles, standing stones, round towers, and passage mounds appeared seemingly out of nowhere. Such monuments were foreign to Scotland during the era, but parallels are common in regions of the Caspian Sea and Mediterranean regions. The creators of these monuments were equally mysterious. Very little oral tradition has survived to this day about the ancient builders. The most popular legend comes to us from the medieval period. When the first Scandinavians first arrived in Orkney, they said there was surviving folklore on the island, speaking of two types of people who had once inhabited the island. They were called the Papai and the Paiti. However, these mysterious groups had long vanished by the time the Scandinavians settled on the islands. Another name for this group was the Shining Ones. Legends remember the Shining Ones as physically different from the older Neolithic inhabitants, who were of small stature and likely dark-haired with brownish eyes. Instead, the Shining Ones would have looked almost surprisingly like the later Celtic people. They were light-skinned, fair-haired, and taller than the island's locals of ancient times. In this regard, they bore a great similarity with the Scandinavians, which must have brought about a strange sensation in their thought of Nordic peoples as they listened to the legends. The ancient Papai were recalled as very mysterious peoples. They must have been fairly significant to be immortalized in local tradition. The legends speak of their large, long limbs, which flowed out of white tunics. They were regarded as master astronomers with an uncanny ability to work with enormous stones and lived away from the native populations of the island. But where did these relatively advanced ancient architects come from? The unique sites of Orkney. Legends state that it was the Shining Ones who built the unique megalithic sites of Orkney. This include Orkney's Ring of Brodgar and the Standing Stones of Stinnes. These are but two of a vast amount of unusual sites on Scotland's Western Isles, but ones which has fascinated scholars for centuries. But why did the Shining Ones go to such extreme lengths to create sites precisely aligned with various celestial bodies? It seems the positioning of the Stinnes stones was no coincidence. The builders specifically chose a site on high ground that overlooked the lake below. 17th century paintings show a quadrangle of vast standing stones resembling a court. It's thought that the standing stones was used to calculate the extreme rising and settling of the sun and moon, and a place of assembly where people gathered. Stinnes actually remained as a place of the council in Orkney, right until they built the main town of Kirkwall. Not far to the northwest of Stinnes lies the intact ring of Brodgar, a collection of 27 sandstone monoliths. While there were once 56 stones at this site, the remains are enough to understand what exactly the site was used for. The sanding stones perfectly align with solar and lunar cycles, proving this ancient site worked as a fully functioning calendar over 7,000 years ago. There are even more unusual alignments that link all of these sites together. The axis on which stands the Ring of Brodgar are a few other sites in the region follow is a southeast trajectory of 129 degrees. This perfectly aligns with the winter solstice of 6,800 BC, a fact that greatly surprised researchers as no culture should have been building sites this far north with such precision at such a distant part of our past. Our last point concerning the sites is one which continues to blow the mind of astronomers around the world. The three main stone circles which run along the Orkney archipelago have a spatial relationship to the Great Pyramids of Giza. When overlaid on a survey, the tip of each pyramid lies directly in the center of each stone circle. This has led to speculation that the pyramids builders built these ancient megalithic sites in Scotland first. Scholars ultimately still need to answer such questions concerning Scotland's ancient past. Just who were these Shining Ones, and how did they arrive on the Western Isle? And most importantly, why? The origin of the Shining Ones. Freddie Silva is one of the main researchers on the origin and identity of the Shining Ones. In his 7th book, Scotland's Hidden Sacred Past, he examines the Neolithic culture, Gaelic language, and scattered traditions of the Scottish Isles. He finds a trail of evidence leading to Sardinia and the Armenian Highlands. Freddie's research led him to locate the origin of this misplaced civilization and what prompted its people to choose the furthest reaches of Europe to recreate the masterworks of their original homeland, a plan that included the establishment of Ireland's religious and megalithic culture. The traditional theory of migration of fair-haired peoples into Western Europe has us believe that settlers transversed across Europe, up through France, entering into southern Britain, and from there to Scotland and Ireland during the early Bronze Age. However, Freddie somewhat disagrees with this statement and believes he has found evidence to contradict this. He suggests that a much more ancient migration had taken place. Freddie thinks that the Shining Ones were seafarers who had actually bypassed the British Isles and arrived first in the Scottish Highlands at places like Orkney, and from there onto northeast Ireland. But this idea would contest of the mainstream academics who imply DNA studies provide us with evidence that claims that the Neolithic ancestors of Western Europe were of Middle Eastern or Anatolian descent. But there be another side to this ancient story. The Shining Ones, Annunaki, Tuatha De Lewis, Orkney, and Ireland's Isles share a common ancestor in these megalithic builders, who were referred to as the Shining Ones. This is somewhat traced through genetics and migrational patterns. Freddie believes the story of the Shining Ones can be traced back to Armenia. He does promote Armenia as one of the cradles of civilization. The Armenian language inherits in 55% of Germanic languages and is linked to Irish and Celtic languages. Evidence such as this helped him to theorize who was behind the making of Scotland's giant stone circles and megaliths. This brought about the theory that the Shining Ones are, in fact, the oldest branch of the Tuatha De Dannan of Irish legends. He claims that hidden within Irish mythology is an ancient story that speaks of this migration. A further link arrives in the name of deity worshipped by the Irish gods of mythology. The Tuatha De Dannan worshipped a goddess known as Anu, and it just so happens that this is also one of the highest-ranking deities of the Annunaki pantheon. Yet little to no legends exist of this deity in summer. Could this be because Anu was adopted into the Sumerian pantheon from outside interference? Interestingly, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed people of Scandinavia, along with the shining ones of Scotland and Ireland, can be traced back to Armenia and the Black Sea area. Papai, the name of the shining ones in Orkney folklore, means a holy person or monk, whereas in Armenian. The other word used in the legends, Pati, relates to an Egyptian word meaning a heavenly being or a regent of the sky, giving us the idea that these people were astronomers or perhaps something more than that, an idea we will explore in a future video. By about 6000 BC, the Shining Ones had moved north from their homeland in Armenia to Siberia, west around Ukraine and the Black Sea, and by about 5000 BC, the area became known as Scythia. This was a massive sway of territory, and their royal peoples would gather around stone circles and round towers. These people took this up to Denmark, up to the river Danube, and gave the genetic line to the Scandinavian people. The blonde and red-haired and blue-eyed people and these people eventually made it into Orkney, the Hebrides, and northern Ireland. The people of Anu likely have their origin in the highlands of Armenia, also known as the Caucasus Mountains, and even northern Samaria. The people of Armenia called themselves the people of Orion. This is interesting as we see clear worship of Orion in both ancient Egypt and Western Europe. A final shred of evidence that links the Shining Ones and Tuatha De Dannan to Armenia comes to us from one of Ireland's most ancient sites, Tara. In legends, this site is where the king of the Tuatha De Dannan ruled from. The name Tara just so happens to be the name of the ancient Armenian deity. So what do you think about today's video? Do you see a connection between the Annunaki of Sumerian legends and the Tuatha De Dannan of Irish mythology? And could both of these groups be traced back to ancient civilization that originates in the Armenian Highlands? Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video and like to see more like it on a unique and mysterious parts of ancient history, then be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.